Good, well, good. You know, I'm glad you want to talk about vision and planning because that's where we're moving to next. We believe that effective organizations, including the city government, need clear vision, goals, and plans. And what are the most pressing issues that you feel that this city is facing? What type of goal setting or planning process would you propose for our community?
I think it is extremely important to do that planning. Extremely important. You know what they say, what's the maximum? If you don't know where you're going, that's where you end up. And I think that that's really essential. I did go to the Planning Commission meeting about a week ago, Tuesday. They have a lot of really good ideas. And I thought that I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they come up with. They're doing a strengths, weakness, a SWOT analysis. I had a lot of confidence in the people there. When I sat and listened to them, I thought, these really are leaders that do have fresh ideas and are really willing to talk about tough issues. So I found it very useful and very, what's the word, inspiring. So I feel good about that. They're talking about needing to, whenever we can, open and keep all the choices. People moving in this community or staying in this community. We want to have housing and opportunity. We want choices for people who want to stay here too. They have different families at different levels have different needs. So they talked about that. We want them for the empty nesters moving to a smaller place. You know, we want all that. So that's one thing about the housing. The retail, I think you really have to be face up to the fact we probably have too much. Isn't that the problem with most areas? That there's some of it's very old, maybe it needs to come down. I started with some of my friends a nonprofit called Severance Neighborhood Organization, and we have worked starting out with Jim Cool and the Citizens Advisory Committee, and we've gotten together with property owners, and they're talking about, we had a meeting, we're having another one, they're talking about what needs to be done to change the mix in the Mayfield-Warrensville retail area. Also, our organization has a group of volunteers who are working on the 9 Mile Creek. There's a 9 Mile Creek behind that area that could be a green space. So I think it's by working together that we can do this reconfiguring. We have to think big, you know, like I said, partnerships, right? Everybody's gonna say that, but it's really true. You know, you don't stop at the city line. And the other thing is, I really think it's important because this is an election, this is a campaign. I think it's a very legitimate question to ask, why is it that our city has not had a strategic plan like this for 15 years? For 15 years, we have not had. So last time we had a strategic plan was 15 years ago. So I hope that you will keep that in mind because I do think that we need fresh leadership and fresh ideas. So it's a legitimate question.
Okay. Well, in keeping with that, what would you do to build community support for a visioning process and plan?
To have a visioning process, you can do it in a lot of different ways. You can have meetings in different areas. You can have, you have to have it over time, obviously, to give people an opportunity. You can use the web and have people contribute ideas, voting even on what they think are the priorities. The way you get a community or any group to vision is you set up a plan for that, the time period, and then after that it's a kind of a PR and a communication and working through, and you have to be adaptable, you know, as you move in one direction and people. So that's what you have to do. You could do it in many ways. But you'd want to engage as many people as possible. You probably should also engage, you know, the neighbors. You'd probably want to involve University Circle in that, and South Euclid and East Cleveland, and because, like I say, it doesn't stop at we don't stop at the border.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let's move to another set of topics.
Hi, my name is Louis Paulus.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Louis Paulus.
Louis?
Yes.
Hi, Louis.
I've lived in the Severance and Oklahoma Monticello area all my life, not that that's really saying much. I'm going into my senior year at Cleveland Heights High School, where I'm the editor of the Black and Gold newspaper, and so I'm going to ask you some questions about the school. It's hard to dispute the interdependence of our public schools and city, yet close and supportive relationships are not a given. What is the city government's role relative to the CHUH schools and the Board of Education?
Well, that relationship does have its limits. They do have unique areas of concern and responsibility. But the community, the schools and the city government, the community and the schools, their fate is inextricably combined. When people think about moving to a community, they think about the schools, and the schools also need the community support. An example of this really is something that happened with the Roxborough schools not long ago, and I think it's an example of the kind of soft support or soft diplomacy that the city government can give to the school board. So I'm going to tell you that example, but I'm going to say that that really is the job of boards to set the tone, to ask the hard questions, and to stand firm and take the heat if people, don't like them. There's always a group of people who don't like you sticking to your mission or to your values, but you have to stand there and accept that. Okay, so this is the example. Maybe some of you read about it in the Sun Press. At the end of the school year, 27 teachers from Roxborough sent a letter to the editor. It was published in the Sun Press, and they said, at the beginning of the school year, we sent a communication home with parents, we had assemblies, we talked with students, and we said that there were going to be special activities at the end of the year, but in order to go, you had to meet certain criteria. Well, the school year progressed, and people did not meet this criteria, but instead of dealing with the consequences of that, taking responsibility. Apparently it was described that they protested to the superintendent and to the school board, and that they relented, the school relented, and the children got to go anyway. So I don't know who benefited from that, but that would be a case. The other thing is I talked to Cal Zucker about it, and he's the president of the school board, and he said that really didn't happen that way. Oh, I'm sorry, so I wrote a letter back to the Sun Press, and it was published, and I said, if this is really what happened, the school board should address it, because we have to support what's going on in the schools. So anyway, Cal claimed that and I didn't follow up with him, but he said it really didn't turn out that way. But there's a perfect example where you have you have a vocal group of people who have been allowed to upset the apple cart, giving nobody a good lesson. Nobody learned from that. Nobody benefited from that. Those kids who learned that you don't have to follow the rules live with us. We're not alone. We all live together. It did no good. It did no good. But there's an example where the city council could say, this is having an impact on our community. What did happen? We need to clarify for the sake of our community that this does not go on. That destroys trust too. I mean, as I said, I don't know what the truth is, but that destroyed some of my trust. I thought, here's these teachers, this story, that should never have gone on. They never should have relented to that group of kids. So that's an example.
Okay. The second question.